Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, welcome to my channel. So the video that I have for you guys today is one that I saw covered a bit on YouTube at the beginning of the year, but there have been a lot of updates to her case since the last time I've seen it really covered, so I just wanted to go ahead and cover her case with all of the updates included. But before we get into the video, I just wanted to go ahead and say a big thank you to today's sponsor, GlassesUSA.com. Glasses USA has been a sponsor of this channel before, and I am so grateful to be working with them again because, as you guys heard me say in the other video, I have a pretty bad prescription of -7. Now, if you're anything like me, then you know how expensive glasses can be and how much of a hassle it can be to get them from your eye doctor. However, it is now so much easier and cheaper to get your glasses with GlassesUSA.com. By cutting out the middleman, GlassesUSA.com offers prescription eyeglasses up to 70% off of retail prices. You can now shop for your prescription glasses online without ever leaving your home, all at affordable prices. GlassesUSA.com offers over 40,000 styles of glasses and sunglasses, including in-home brands like Amelia E, which is the glasses that I'm wearing right now, or like these prescription sunglasses that I have, which are super cute, or like Autotow, which is these sunglasses that I have right here, which are also prescription sunglasses. And they have designer brands like Ray-Ban, Oakley, Gucci, and so many more. You can find any style and color that you can imagine, as well as specialty glasses like kids glasses, sports glasses, safety glasses, and so many more. Now, like I said before in my previous video with GlassesUSA.com, with how high my prescription is, I was worried that it might be too high to find cute glasses because the ones that I got from my eye doctor have the thickest lenses ever. But with GlassesUSA.com, you can add any prescription to almost any pair of frames, including sunglasses, which again, I have been able to get through GlassesUSA.com, which is amazing to me because I've never been able to get prescription sunglasses before because, again, they were always just so thick and they just did not look right. Or you can add blue light blocking coating to any pair of eyeglasses, which is what I have right now, which definitely helps with headaches and strain if you're looking at your computer all day, which I know so many of us are doing right now. The best part of GlassesUSA.com is the price point. A complete pair of glasses starts at only $30, and free basic prescription lenses are included with every frame. It's so easy. Literally all you do is enter your prescription, place your order, and that's it. You're done. Standard shipping is free on all orders, no matter how much you spend, and if for some reason you aren't happy with your order, you have 14 days to return it for a refund, exchange, or for 100% store credit, no questions asked. The exciting news is that by clicking the link in my description box below, my subscribers can sign up to get 65% off of their first pair, which is absolutely amazing considering that these glasses are already so affordable. And if you liked any of the glasses that I already showed or the ones that I'm wearing right now, those will also be linked down below for you to try out as well. So again, make sure you go ahead and click the link down below and head over to GlassesUSA.com to get 65% off of your first pair of glasses, 100% hassle-free. Thank you again to GlassesUSA.com for sponsoring today's video. Now I'm going to be going ahead and taking off the glasses just for the rest of the video so that there's no glare or anything like that. So with all of that being said, let's just jump right into today's case. Today, we are going to be discussing the case of Holly Ellsworth-Clark. Holly Ellsworth-Clark was 27 years old when she went missing on January 11th, 2020. Holly was described as warm, friendly, and welcoming. She was a very bright young woman who had a bubbly personality and could get along with just about anyone, yet she was opinionated and would stand strong to her beliefs. She was known by her parents to be a very responsible, ambitious, hardworking young woman. She absolutely loved music and was also super athletic. She was a very tall woman, standing at 6 feet tall and weighing around 200 pounds. And while attending the University of Calgary, she was on the Calgary Dinos wrestling team, where she was a 3-time wrestling champion and won several medals both nationally and internationally. She loved spending time outdoors, and that was really her way of getting her mind off of things. If she was stressed or lonely or sad, she would go outside and hike or exercise. Now, Holly grew up in Calgary, Alberta with her brother and her sister, but moved to Toronto in 2018 to be in a band called Deep Bite and to be with her boyfriend. However, her band ended up sort of falling through and her relationship did not work out either, so in October of 2019, she moved to Hamilton, Ontario. This time, she had taken up an offer to live in a room in a house with other musicians who also wanted to make a band. They even had a recording studio in the house, so it seemed like a pretty sweet deal. However, this didn't end up working out either, so she just decided to take some time to herself and concentrate on herself and her own music. So during her time living in Hamilton, she frequently brought her talent and creativity to open mic nights to perform. She described her music as sort of a combination between Velvet Underground and 90s grunge. She once said in a quote, "I think most of my songs that are really important to me come from feeling discomfort and being like, shoot, I'm not being honest with something in my life. My music is really emotionally driven and I'm trying to be honest about my internal conflicts that I'm facing. I don't want to tell half the story. I want to tell the whole truth of what I'm feeling." She also liked posting her music to YouTube for even more people to listen to and enjoy. Now, she did spend a lot of time at home since she did work remotely online. Because of this, it was kind of difficult for her to make friends because she didn't really have the opportunity to go out and meet new people. So she ended up spending a lot of time alone because her parents still lived in Calgary and her siblings lived in Toronto. Either way, she was still very close to her parents and siblings, so she made sure to keep contact with them whenever she could. Of course, she would still go home and visit her family whenever she got the chance, especially for holidays. So over Christmas in 2019, she went back home to Calgary to spend time with her family for a few days. Now, like I said, since living in Hamilton, she hadn't had the opportunity to make a lot of friends, so there weren't a ton of people in her life who were able to sort of keep an eye out for her and notice very small changes in her behavior. For example, if you have a best friend and they slowly just started to stop texting you as much, or you noticed that they were doing their hair differently or dressing differently, or they suddenly just stopped wanting to hang out, you would easily pick up on those things. But for Holly, no one really noticed any change in behavior until she started doing some pretty unusual things. So on January 8th, 2020, apparently she had left her home and had been out all night and did not return until the next morning on January 9th. But when she did come home this day, according to her roommates, she actually broke through her bedroom window to get in instead of using her front door to walk in as normal. Of course, her roommates were a little bit thrown off by this, so they asked her what was going on, and she told them that she had just spent the entire night running through the woods because two men were chasing her. Of course, this concerned the roommates even more, so they called the police to come talk to Holly. They just wanted to see if Holly was okay mentally, but after talking to police, they determined that she was in a healthy state of mind. However, that same night, she had called her mother and got no answer, so she left a voicemail. This voicemail was pretty concerning because Holly was very clearly distressed and upset. I will play that voicemail for you right now.
I would really like a plane ticket out of Hamilton to Calgary, please. And I would like to come home and visit you and Dave. I'm missing you so much. And I love you so much. So that's all I want in the world is to see you and Dave. Because I love you both so much. So, if you could please help me out with a plane ticket, that would be really greatly appreciated. Okay, I love you.
So it's very clear that she was not in a good place mentally, and something was bothering her to the point of wanting to come home to be with her family. Now, I will note that this voicemail was left on January 9th, but no one had heard it yet at this point, and they didn't hear that voicemail for a couple of weeks after that. So then the next day, on January 10th, Holly was able to get a hold of her dad on the phone. Once again, she expressed to him that she had two men who had been chasing her, and she was absolutely terrified. Of course, he asked her if she wanted to come home to be safer, and she said yes, but she would rather have him come pick her up than her fly home by herself. And he agreed. However, by the time that he had planned to get on a plane and go pick her up the very next day, Holly suddenly went missing. On January 11th, 2020, Holly was seen leaving her home at around 4:15 p.m. Her roommate said at that point that she did seem a little bit nervous, just like she had been the previous few days, but otherwise she was pretty normal. However, at that point, it was freezing cold outside, it was super windy, and it was all rainy and wet. But when she left, she was only wearing black jeans, a black long sleeve shirt, black ankle booties, and she didn't really take any of her personal belongings with her. She left her ID, her money, and her wallet behind at home. She didn't have a backpack or a purse, and she definitely was not dressed for the weather. And then after leaving, she was gone a lot longer than normal, and she didn't end up coming home that night. So by the next day, when she still wasn't home, her roommates and her family knew that something was very wrong, so they reported her missing to police. Police started doing searches around the area, they reviewed surveillance video, and asked the public for help. Over the course of the next few weeks, police and Good Samaritans around the area gathered surveillance videos that captured Holly. It was actually really cool because a lot of people in the public were coming forward to help and saying that they saw Holly in these different areas to help police pin down exactly what surveillance videos they needed to review. So based on these videos, we learn a lot about the route that Holly took. So her house is located on Stanford Avenue, and across the street is Woodlands Park. So it looked like she left her home and then walked through Woodlands Park, where a grainy video picked her up walking by wearing a makeshift poncho made out of a black garbage bag over her clothes, but she was not holding anything. Then another video showed a woman who looked like Holly walking north on a road near Wentworth Street and Shaw Street. She was still wearing this black garbage bag, but this time she was carrying a black garbage bag over her shoulder that appeared to be carrying items and was about half full. She was seen on video at a local business, again still on Wentworth Street, wearing the makeshift poncho at around 4:55 p.m., but this time she was no longer carrying the garbage bag. Then after this, she was not seen on any more videos again. Now, there were more business buildings that had surveillance video up the road, but she was not seen on any of their cameras. The other thing about these other surveillance videos is that some people think it's strange that she decided to just put on a garbage bag over her clothes to wear. However, like I said earlier, Holly really enjoyed going outside and walking around and clearing her mind when she was upset, and being in inclement weather did not faze Holly. So it wasn't strange that she had just decided to make a garbage bag a poncho, because that's actually something her family did very often when they would all go camping together as Holly was growing up. So when her father saw her in this makeshift poncho, he was confident that this was in fact Holly in these videos, and he knew that this makeshift poncho was something that she pretty regularly did. Now, after these initial videos, there weren't any more sightings of Holly until a few weeks later on February 3rd, when a woman who looked just like her appeared on surveillance video once again on Wentworth Street. However, this video was very blurry and grainy and made it impossible to confidently identify this woman as being Holly. But after seeing this video, her father believed that this person resembled Holly in every way. First, the woman in the video had the same exact haircut and color as Holly. She also had the same gait as her, and this woman was very clearly tall and had a larger build, which not a lot of women have. She, once again, was also wearing a black garbage bag and was carrying a garbage bag over her shoulder. Plus, this person was seen walking right past one of Holly's missing persons flyers and looking right at it. However, her clothes in this video were different. She was now wearing a jacket with blue jeans. The clothes did not appear to belong to Holly, but her mannerisms and her walk were just way too similar to Holly's to discredit this video. So after seeing all of these videos, it was very clear that she was walking with a purpose and was heading somewhere. So when we see the first few videos, we see her walking, and then in such a short distance between the railroad tracks and the next business with a surveillance video, she just disappears. Then she is not seen for almost a month, when she reappears in the same area, but this time wearing different clothes. So her family was very hopeful that she was okay and that she was out there somewhere alive and well. And even police did not suspect any foul play in her case. But if that was the case, then where was she? How was she not seen on any surveillance video for months? Was she picked up and taken somewhere? And if so, was this willing? Did she willingly go with someone? These are all very, very important questions that are just left without answers. So, of course, again, this entire time of gathering and reviewing these surveillance videos, police and volunteers continued on with their searches. They searched all of her favorite hiking trails. They scoured the area around where she was last seen on a surveillance video, but they found absolutely nothing. The next thing that they did was to check all of Holly's bank accounts. Now, like I said, Holly left behind pretty much all of her belongings when she walked out of the house that day. She only had $45 with her, and her bank account had not been accessed at any point after she left. They also reviewed her transactions right before she went missing, but they didn't find anything suspicious. She hadn't withdrawn any large amounts of money before or after she went missing, besides the amount of money that she was known to have with her at the time. So that leaves us with the question of, how was she surviving this entire time? She only had $45. She hadn't accessed any of her bank accounts, and she had no money with her. So if she was alive and out there somewhere, where was she and what was she doing? The family was left with absolutely no answers until months later, when they were faced with the worst possible outcome for their daughter. On September 8th, 2020, after almost 8 months of searching, Holly's body was found by a worker at the Hamilton Harbor on Pier 11, floating in the water. Now, when her body was originally found, it appeared as if she had been in the water for quite some time, so her body was not immediately identified. But with the help of the National Center for Missing Persons and Unidentified Remains and the DNA database, the body was confirmed to belonging to Holly. However, I am not quite sure if her body still had clothes on, or if there were any clothes or personal belongings found nearby or anything else like that. We really don't know a ton about the circumstances under which her body was found, so unfortunately, there's not a ton to say with that. Of course, her body was sent to the coroner for an autopsy. Dr. Judy Bard did her first autopsy and came to the conclusion that there was nothing suspicious about her death that indicated that she was a victim of foul play. Now, her body was significantly decomposed, which suggested that she had been in the water for quite some time, but they could not determine exactly how long she had been in the water. Her body was found to have no visible signs of trauma, but she was also found missing both of her legs, but the medical examiner said that this could be the result of a boat coming into contact with her body at some point. It's also, of course, unknown how she got into the water in the first place. This body of water is very well trafficked, and it is not the clearest water. There are many factors that play into whether a body will sink or rise to the surface, or if its currents will move a body from its original location of where it went into the water. So based on all of that, I'm not sure if she went into the water and was found in the same location that she went in, or maybe if she went into the water at a different location and was somehow moved to where she was found, or if she had once been sunken and then rose to the top when she was found. And Holly's parents are not satisfied either with the vague answers given by the coroner. They are not okay with the vague assumption that her legs are missing, probably because a boat hit her body. Now, when a coroner is completing an autopsy, there are normally 5 questions that they must answer in the investigation: the identity of the victim, the date of their death, where they died, the medical cause of their death, and whether the death was from natural causes, a homicide, a suicide, accidental, or undetermined. But in Holly's case file, almost all of these questions are just left as undetermined. So the family set out to have a second autopsy completed for Holly. This autopsy is being overseen by Ontario's head pathologist, Dr. Michael Pollinen. I also know that the family is trying to do more searches in the water to see if there are any more clues related to Holly, or how she got into the water, or how she died. So that is where the case sits right now. Now, I wanted to wait a bit to find out about the results of the second autopsy before posting this video, but the autopsy was done near the end of September, and they said that the results would be back in 5 to 6 weeks after that, but it's been almost 12 weeks, and I don't know if it's taking longer than expected or if they have the results themselves and just have not made them public. So I'm not exactly sure where they're at right now in terms of that, but right now, as far as I have seen, it seems like they're saying that there was no evidence of foul play right now. But as always, I will keep you guys updated as more information comes out when this second autopsy is revealed. So I remember watching videos about Holly when she initially went missing, and even then it was suspected that there was no foul play involved and that Holly was going through some sort of mental health crisis. So let's go ahead and talk about that really quick. Now, obviously, before she went missing, she was showing clear signs of being in some sort of trouble. She broke into her own house through a window. She left that very distressing voicemail to her parents, begging to come home, and her roommates even noticed that she was acting a bit differently before she went missing. So there are pretty much two main routes that you can take when discussing this thought. First, many people have brought up that she may have been experiencing some sort of schizophrenic break. Now, this theory comes up a lot in cases where someone just suddenly starts acting a lot differently right before they go missing. And we know that yes, Holly is around the age when a diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia is most commonly seen. And of course, we know that she was very worried that two men were chasing her, and she did seem very, very paranoid. And again, we know that her roommates even noticed that she did not seem very mentally well. However, when it comes to the whole schizophrenia thing, I don't necessarily know if it fits Holly's case. Yes, she was acting paranoid, but this is something that started literally a few days before she was last seen. If someone is starting to show signs of this illness, symptoms usually develop over weeks until there's some sort of larger episode. Obviously, with pretty much any mental disorder in general, the longer it goes untreated, a lot of times it just gets worse and worse. Many times, if someone is experiencing some sort of mental illness, there's very small signs that maybe some people will notice until there's a little bit bigger signs, and then they think, this is just a little bit strange, until there's one big episode that makes people realize, okay, this is a very real problem. And a lot of times in cases, the big episode is them going missing. But for Holly, this was literally only a few days before she went missing. And in a lot of other cases, people can think to themselves, okay, this seemed to be going on a few weeks before she went missing, or, I noticed these very small things. And even if it's in retrospect, people do notice a lot of smaller things much farther in advance than just literally the day before she went missing. So it is just a bit strange to me that she would just suddenly out of nowhere show all of these symptoms all at once and then have this huge break and then just leave. Her family also reported that there is no history of mental illness in the family, and one of the biggest risk factors for any mental illness, but especially schizophrenia, is a family history of mental illness. So just to me, schizophrenia honestly does not seem like the biggest possibility. But at the same time, I will concede that we do know that she didn't have a ton of close friends who could notice these very small changes in her behavior or her mental status. So it is possible that she was exhibiting other very small signs, but no one noticed it. But then at the same time, I do think that, again, it's more gradual than having very, very, very minute and small symptoms, just going from that until a much bigger break of her breaking into her window and then saying all these things about men chasing her. I do genuinely think that if she was experiencing even very small paranoid symptoms, that her roommates would have at least noticed something. But again, everyone is different. Everyone's mental health shows itself in different ways, and no two mental illnesses are exactly the same, so we can't say for sure. So the next route that we can take within the theory of a mental crisis is that she had a different mental illness, such as depression, anxiety, or bipolar disorder. Now, I think it's really easy for people to just jump straight to paranoid schizophrenia when someone is acting paranoid or anxious or out of character, but that is such a rare disorder, and It's not seen very often. I think it's less than 1% of the adult population actually have schizophrenia. So building off of that, I think we should consider other mental health issues. So we know that she had just moved to Toronto for a band and a relationship that both ended up falling through. Obviously, this can be very difficult to go through. A breakup is never easy, no matter how bad the breakup might be. I'm not exactly sure whether it was a tough breakup, like him just dumping her out of nowhere, or if she found out he did something, or if she did something to him, or I have no idea what the situation was around the breakup. It also could have been very mutual, but either way, whether it's the most nicest breakup in the whole world, they're still tough and they're still hard to go through. Then, because of all this, she moved to Ontario where she didn't know absolutely anyone and then joined another band that fell through. As she lived in Hamilton, yes, she enjoyed her music and going to open mic nights, and she loved writing music and she was enjoying her life and her career. But no matter how passionate you are about your career or hobbies or how busy it keeps you, everyone needs a companion and a close friend, and she didn't seem like she really had that in this new place she was living in. So I imagine that just being lonely could have caused her to go into some sort of funk. Loneliness is one of the very top reasons for mental illness, and it could have just been something that was festering and getting worse over months and months. I know from personal experience that when I lived somewhere where I didn't really know anyone for a while and I didn't have any friends, I was very busy with school. And I think at that point I was even doing YouTube. But even though I was busy all the time and I was very happy and content with my life in school and work, I was not happy socially, and that can really, really take a toll on your mental health. Then being a musician and having to rely on yourself for income can be very, very anxiety inducing. So putting all of this together, it makes perfect sense that she had this very distressing phone call and was begging to come home, saying that she doesn't have money for a plane ticket. She could have been very stressed about money, been feeling lonely, and was just overall very unsure about her future. Again, imagine moving somewhere new with high hopes, and then maybe it doesn't turn out exactly the way you think it will, and then on top of that you're lonely and don't have anyone to talk to about it, or at least you feel inside like you don't have anyone to talk to about it, even if you do. And then on top of that, maybe she was even struggling with money. All of these things can make someone fall into a very, very deep depression or anxiety state. And maybe it was even her anxiety that caused her to assume the worst in people. Or maybe she experienced something very traumatic and just didn't tell anyone. Maybe she was abused by a man in one way or another. This is just sort of me going into a rabbit hole really quick, but if she was abused at some point or taken advantage of by a man, a lot of women feel very guilty or embarrassed of what happened to them, and they just feel like it was their fault even though it wasn't. So after this, if something like this happened to her, she could have just been feeling very overwhelmed and just genuinely believed that people in her life were coming after her. You don't have to have schizophrenia to be paranoid or suspicious of everyone around you. I, for one, will have some black SUV make the two same turns as me and assume someone's following me. Actually, a few weeks ago, I had someone knock at my door at around 11:30 p.m. who I didn't recognize looking through the peephole. And to me, it looked like they were wearing a black hoodie with their, hood up, and I was so scared that I was physically shaking and was about to dial 911, and then I stayed up the rest of the night even though I had to wake up early the next day for school. And as I was sitting there watching my door, I thought I heard someone messing with my lock. I have no idea if anyone was actually fiddling with my lock or if anyone was trying to break in, but that just goes to show that very small things can make you unreasonably paranoid. It is very common, especially in women, to be very anxious and to feel suspicious of those around her, especially if she's ever been hurt before. So with all of that being said, it's possible that she was just feeling very down about her life, so she called her dad to come get her. But maybe she genuinely believed that someone was following her, and that day she just decided that she couldn't wait a second longer and just left. Maybe she left everything behind so that it would be harder to track her, or maybe she was just planning on hiding out somewhere until her dad arrived. Maybe she had packed up that garbage bag and then hid it somewhere previously and then returned to grab it when we saw her on a surveillance video, and she was going to hide out somewhere just for the day, and that's why she didn't really take anything with her. Or maybe, just throwing this out there, everything in her life got so overwhelming that she went into the water on purpose and took her own life. I don't think that that's very possible, but I'm just throwing that out there. Or maybe she went over there to calm herself. Again, we know that she loved nature and being outside, and that, being out there just took her mind off of the troubles that she was facing. So maybe she just went to go stand or sit by the water and then accidentally fell in at some point. I do think that that's possible given what we know. The other possibility that I've heard people talk about is that maybe she was on drugs and that is what caused her to act out and be paranoid, but I personally don't think that this is very likely because, one, she had no personal known history of drugs or a family history of drug use. So I feel like if she just suddenly started using drugs, that her roommates would have noticed, would have seen that she was getting drugs, and would have said something to investigators at some point, even after she went missing. Again, obviously you don't want to snitch someone out for using drugs before they go missing, but it's obviously important to finding them if you know that they're doing drugs, and they did not say anything as far as I know. So I just don't think that this equals her being on drugs, or that her behaviors show that she was on drugs. So I don't think this is very likely at all. So the next possibility, of course, is that she was met with foul play. Now, I think the most likely way that this would play out is taking the previous theories into consideration. I think it's very possible and probable that she was going through some sort of mental health issues. We see that through her actions and through the phone call that she made and the fact that she was so paranoid. I think it's more likely that she was going through something like anxiety or depression. Maybe she had a plan to meet up with someone that she knew, or maybe she saw a stranger who offered to pick her up at some point, so she willingly went with them, or maybe she really was being chased by two men who ultimately caught up to her. So again, we know that she had expressed fear about being chased by two men. If she was really being chased and followed, that is a very big motivator to want to leave your location and to leave all of your things behind. So we know that she was seen by several surveillance videos walking down the street before suddenly just not being seen anymore after crossing the train tracks. So this could mean that she avoided being seen by camera somehow after crossing the train tracks, which I don't think that that's very likely, because why would she have no problem being seen before and then suddenly just want to hide from surveillance videos after that? And how would she have successfully done that anyways, unless she knew a lot more about surveillance videos than most people? So I just don't think that that's very likely for the reason why she wasn't seen. I also feel like some people could say that maybe she hopped on a train that was passing nearby. There are, shipping containers that people will go on to travel from city to city, but because her body was found so close to home, I don't think she hopped on a train to get very far. So that leaves with the other possibility that someone may have driven by and picked her up in a car, which I think is the most likely case. I think that it's very possible that she had a plan to meet up with someone that day and left after finding her bag and putting it somewhere else. I'm not exactly sure where the bag would come into play, but I do think it's likely that she had planned to meet up with someone that day. Maybe this person knew about the men trying to chase her and they took her into hiding to help protect her. Maybe that's why she was seen 3 weeks after she went missing on the surveillance video. Maybe the person who picked her up truly had good intentions and then tried hiding her, and then maybe she came back out of hiding once she thought these men were no longer following her, but then they did end up catching up with her and harming her and then throwing her into the lake after all. Or maybe she was picked up by a stranger that same day and then was harmed by them and then thrown into the water, and it just so happens that there's someone else out there who looks exactly like Holly and that it was not Holly on that surveillance video in February. Either way, I do think that it's very likely that she was picked up that day, and that's why she was not seen on surveillance video after she crossed the railroad tracks. Now, I also haven't really seen anywhere who exactly was questioned or whether they had access to her cell phone records or who she was talking to, but it almost makes me wonder if she had gotten back into contact with her ex-boyfriend to come and keep her safe, since that seems to be one of the only people that she knew who was around her other than her siblings. But obviously if it was her siblings that tried to keep her safe, they would have said something by now. Obviously, if she was truly being chased by two strange men, she wouldn't just trust some rando to pick her up and keep her safe somewhere. So because of this, I highly doubt that she would have gotten into the car willingly with someone that she didn't know. So I do think the fact of her being picked up is very possible, and I do think it's possible that her fear was very real and that she was in fact being followed. So again, I do think it's possible that these men caught up with her and that they really did harm her. If she was suffocated or drowned or something along those lines, it's possible that she wouldn't have any significant signs of trauma and that her body was so decomposed that it would be impossible to tell. I think we have to keep in mind that she is an absolutely stunning young woman, and she went out there and performed at shows in front of crowds. She could have been seen by someone at one of her shows who became obsessed with her and just started following her. That's definitely not unheard of, and unfortunately it's something that can be very common for young, pretty women in this kind of industry. So I definitely don't want to rule out the possibility that she was being followed. And honestly, I think it's a little bit frustrating that she had expressed fear of being followed and everyone just assumes she has schizophrenia. I don't mean the family or friends at all, because obviously they know more about this case than any of us do on the internet. I'm more so talking about people on the internet who see these behaviors and, are just armchair psychiatrists and just automatically assume she had schizophrenia. I do think that's a little bit frustrating and honestly kind of contributes to people not taking women seriously and just thinking, oh, she must be paranoid. No way, she's actually being followed, when it's a very real possibility that she was being followed. I almost think it's more possible that she was being followed than just randomly had schizophrenia, because she is absolutely beautiful. She's very unique looking. She's talented, and she was putting herself out there in front of people in crowds. I personally believe that Holly's fate was the combination of mental health problems and foul play. I think that it makes sense that she may have met up with someone to temporarily get away from whoever was following her, and then just when she thought she was safe, these people may have caught up with her and harmed her. Her parents definitely think there's more to the story than her just wandering off and somehow surviving for a month with absolutely no money, then somehow just falling into the water. She was an experienced camper and hiker. She wouldn't just easily fall into the water for no reason. And again, I personally don't think that she would have just wanted to take her own life. I don't think she would have called her dad to come pick her up and then, knowing that he was going to be picking her up the next day, just go and take her life instead. I personally think that this theory would be more likely of her taking her own life if she hadn't called her dad about this beforehand, but she knew that something good was about to happen. She knew her dad was coming for her. She knew that she was going to be in a safe place very soon, so I personally don't think that she would have taken her life after calling her dad to come pick her up. I will be very, very interested to see what this second autopsy brings and if anything else is found during any of these searches that the family is planning. I do think police are considering this a closed case, but I personally think that this case is far from being resolved. Her family deserves some real answers for what happened to their daughter. Concrete answers, not just assumptions based on their daughter having mental health problems. As always, I will keep you guys updated on anything that comes out of this case, since this is a very recent case and there are still so many answers to come. Make sure you go ahead and follow my Twitter, because that is where I keep the most up to date on any case that I cover. My heart absolutely goes out to Holly, her family, and everybody else who loved her. She was such a beautiful, bright young woman who had everything going for her, and it just breaks my heart that she was just out there living her life one moment and then just gone the next. But either way, that is all I have for today's video, and now I want to know your guys' thoughts. Do you think Holly was the victim of foul play, or do you think this was some sort of accident? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked this video, please make sure to go ahead and leave this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out new true crime and mystery videos every single week. Also, don't forget to turn on those notifications if you wish to be notified of my new videos every single week. Don't forget to follow my Twitter and Instagram, both will be linked down below. Also, don't forget to go ahead and click the link down below and head over to glassesusa.com to get your first pair of glasses super easy and convenient. And if you have absolutely any case suggestions, please make sure to go ahead and send them over to my email at RachelShannonCases@gmail.com. With that, I hope you guys have a great week, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!